Raiders offense under Chip Kelly. 7 points in the first half, only 140 yards passing. Ashton Genty, 6 carries for 24 yards. Hey, maybe we were better off not having Genty as the first round pick that high. Just a thought. It's just a thought. Because there was another school of thought that Shedeur Sanders should have been the pick of the Raiders at quarterback. Would have been logical. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. I want to focus on the fact that Chip Kelly, once again, has been brought into the NFL as the offensive guru or savior, only to fail at the task of proving he is just that. He leaves a lot on the table. And one has to ask, are we really overhyping Chip Kelly because of what he did way, way, way back when and in college? And just maybe that's all he's got in the tank and nothing more? It's fair to ask that question. And then let's take another view. There are no black offensive coordinators in the NFL right now. None. I checked. Zero. None. Pass game coordinator, Dave Shaw. But think about it. David Shaw was none other than Stanford football's most successful coach in its history. Dave Shaw understands how to install a top flight, ball control, effective passing offense. And yet he's passing game coordinator for the Lions? That's stupid. Eric Bieniemy was long the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs when they were racking up AFC West championships, Super Bowl championships. And you mean to tell me that the best job that Eric Bieniemy can get is run game coordinator for the Chicago Bears? That's crazy. Take Dave Shaw and Eric Bieniemy and put them in where Chip Kelly should be in the case of David Shaw, right? Right? And Johnny Moore should be in the case of the Lions. We're going to install Eric Bieniemy. That's why I'm giving David Shaw to the Raiders because his father worked for the Raiders. Historic connection there. And then, of course, Johnny Morton is replaced by the great Eric Bieniemy, an offensive coordinator. Another chance for Bieniemy. It's absolutely, and then let's not forget, we have Byron Leftwich sitting out there as a talent. And when you roll your eyes, I remind you that it was Byron Leftwich that remained and served as offensive coordinator for Tom Brady. So he understands now how to build an offense that gets you a Super Bowl championship. It wasn't all Brady. It was Leftwich installing the ideas that Brady had and installing the changes that Brady called for. But you have to remember, Leftwich worked for Bruce Arians, and he was only doing what Bruce Arians wanted him to do, which, in of its face, as I've said before, was illogically structured, but with virtually no attention paid to timing in the passing game by design. In other words, when you draw the play and write the instructions for what the players are supposed to do, including quarterback, with respect to not just steps, but also what kind of pass. With a hitch step, in other words, you're pushing off or without, just basically releasing it as soon as you get to that last step. None of that is in the Bruce Arians playbook. But under Tom Brady, Byron Leftwich understands the importance of making those detailed distinctions. And he's not a coordinator now. All right. So, again, the best talent at coordinator is literally subordinated or worse, sitting on the bench. And they happen to be black. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And it's being replaced by these, I call them pattern modeler guys. In other words, people who don't understand what it means to actually draw up an entire play that's a timed passing offense and test out with respect to the offensive line blocking, but they're pass game coordinators where they just sort of draw the patterns up and it's all sloppy and everything, right? Ugh, give me a break. And they say, well, they're young, and they're white and they're male, so they must know what they're talking about. And they were in coaching, and no, no. There are plenty of young black males. Hey, women understand this too. Ryan Clark is wrong. You don't have to be a player to understand how to coach. In fact, I'll make a separate video about that. But what Ryan Clark misses is, let me put it this way. In order for what Ryan Clark said to make sense, you're saying, who's Ryan Clark? All right, Ryan Clark's a commentator on ESPN who was once great safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Clark said to Peter Schrager, basically, hey, look, you'd have to be a player to understand um, an argument he was making. And you don't. You don't. Many of the most successful offenses in NFL history were developed by people who weren't players. And for example, did you know the jet sweep was designed by a high school teacher in England? That's right. Ted Say was the creator of the jet sweep concept. Ted Say, not a football player. And I know Ted. Okay. So people need a good idea can come from anybody, anywhere, as long as it's employed. That's it. And even if it's not employed. Okay. You don't have to have played football to understand football. You don't have to have played football to understand football. To say that you have to have played is like saying that I have to be a steel girder in order to understand how to draw up the designs for a skyscraper. Like saying that I have to be a pillar in order to understand how a house is built. You know? That's stupid. And go on and on and on with these analogies. Ryan is wrong. Now back to the matter of Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly has another half to prove that the idea of getting him wasn't a bad one. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark NFL News by Zenny62.com. We'll see you. And yes, I am an NFL vlogger.